Scott and Craig Colby, the bros who know. We are giving you the tools so that you can make media make sense. And I have got to work on that music fade up. It's World Series time, and people across North America, especially Canada, are glued to their screens watching the games.
But they are watching more than just two teams on the field showing off their craft. Highly skilled broadcast teams are capturing the action and interpreting the game for the viewers.
We're going to talk about how that happens in a moment. But first, we are going to talk about Scott Colby. He is a journalist with 36 years of experience as a reporter, columnist, editor, photographer, and designer, as well as a national best-selling author and the creator of the Coach Colby Writing Academy. Visit his website, coachcolby.me, for a free insider's cheat sheet on how to write effective op-eds. Scott does not work for the Jays broadcasts.
No, I don't. And he is Craig Colby, who has spent 17 years in broadcasting. He's an award-winning executive producer and author and owner of Colby Vision, a video production and consulting company. Craig does not work on the Jays broadcasts. But our guest today is Scott Carson. I'm so happy to have another Scott on the show. Scott Carson is the Blue Jays statistician. He's done that job since 1993. That date may ring a bell for some people. That was the last time the Blue Jays were in the World Series, and they were, of course, were successful. Scott Carson sits in the booth with Dan Schulman and Buck Martinez, supplying them with the data they need to tell the story of the game. Welcome to the Brothers in Media, Scott Carson.
Very glad to be here, especially at this time of the year with all that's going on around the Blue Jays. It's like you said, 93 was my first year. That was amazing. Very exciting, obviously. And now, starting to get the same old goosebumps.
Nice to hear that. And we can see World Series coverage behind you for those watching on YouTube. And anybody who is watching us live, it is the 29th at 12:30. You can send us questions. We have a chat here that we can see them. If you got any questions for Scott Carson, please let me know. Scott, I guess the first thing people are going to wonder is, how do you get a job like that?
Well, that's a long and interesting story.
You've got 30 minutes. Go.
Perfect. Originally, when I was a kid, about 8 years old, I used to take a piece of graph paper and make a crude score sheet. And then back when I was a kid, we only got 2 baseball games a week. We got the Wednesday night Expos game on the CBC, and we got the NBC game of the week every Saturday. So I used to sit and watch those games and learn how to score games. Funny how all these years later, where I've been sitting now for 33 seasons. But the real beginning of the story was my high school football coach was the original stats man to do this job. His name is Doug Kelcher, and he's my mentor, because if he had never brought me down to a game when I was in grade 13, back when they had grade 13, I would have never seen that job and thought to myself, oh, this is what I would like to do with my life. So, and,
Where was that, Scott? Where did you go to high school?
I went to Sir Wilfrid Laurier in Scarborough, Guildwood area, right down by Lake Ontario there. And he was my high school football coach, and nudged me along my way all the way to here. Very blessed when I got this job, and I'd been looking at it from when I went the first time into TSN, and I watched that job for 8 years actually. And when it finally came to me, I was more than thrilled, and I've never looked back, and it's been a great run. So,
and I've known Scott since we were at TSN back when I was in 1989, and I really can't think of a more perfect guy for this job. But it sounds people kind of have a general idea what a statistician does. You keep track of numbers, but what does a statistician do during the game?
Yeah, how does it look minute to minute in your job?
Well, most of the actual building of the stats that you see, first at bat, all those things, those are pre-built and brought in from a stats provider, and the truck computer for the graphics and all of our computers all speak that same language. So the days like it was in '93, when after every game I would have to manually update everybody's batting average, and during the game as well, it was a monumental task back in the day. 2 years later, it went all computerized, and I rode that wave all the way to here, because like now, I just need to know where things are, not what they are. And once I know what I'm looking for, I can get to it very, very quickly. The internet for a guy in my job, you couldn't do it now. You just say, okay, this was a great run. I'll find something else. But once you know how to tame the beast, it's great.
And during the broadcast, and they're calling up stats, are you like saying like, hey, Buck, you might want to know about this particular stat? Or is someone telling you like what to tell them, what stats standing out?
No, I just basically sit. I mean, they're right here, right?
Yeah.
And I've always been one that doesn't like to wear a two muff headset. I have my right ear open because they're sitting right here, and I can hear them as clear as a bell. And I'm getting other voices in my headset, not just the ones that are always in my head, but that's another story.
That's another story. That's another podcast.
So I basically listen to them, and if I think I can add to it, I quickly research. In-game is more research than actual stats. Everything, that we need has been pre-built. So, and we just need to know where everything lives. So that's, like I say, once the game starts, it's research. You listen to the truck. They might want something too. And then just stay online. Talk about multitasking. I never knew that I would be able to do this when I was a younger man, but you kind of morph into it, and loads of fun.
Yeah, I worked on the '96 Olympics in Atlanta, and that was the first time we had the stats systems talk to the TV systems when they did, which was not all the time. So it was a different world when you started. There was no saying, I didn't think there'd be any math for this job, but now you don't really need any math for this job. Where do you get all your numbers from?
Well, multiple websites, Fangraphs, Baseball Reference, Savant. They are invaluable, especially for the newer analytics. Our database that we have access to 24/7, 365 comes from a company called Sport Radar. They are thorough. They're researchers who sit in those windowless rooms. They can spit out things that you need instantaneously. When I ask a question in game, we need it as soon as possible. They get it to us right behind as soon as possible. And, the real good thing is they're all menu driven, and they're not hard to find what you need. You click on certain things, leads to a different menu. You narrow it down, you can grab it quick. The stuff that you can't during the game, research is there. You quickly type that, it comes back to you, and it goes right onto the air. So it's invaluable.
What about, I'm sure everyone wants to know, the Addison Barger pinch hit grand slam home run, first time in World Series history?
Yep.
Is that something like, how did that stat come to be known to you?
Well, that came about less than half a minute after he hit the home run and the crowd calmed down. Blue Jays media, I can hear their press box down the third baseline there. And so it came into my head as it does after every home run, as in the Bargers' third home run of the postseason. And then the next line was the key line. It is the first World Series pinch hit home run in Major League history. So it was easy to get that on air very fast when you've got, access to other voices, telling you things like official scoring and all those things.
Right.
So anybody who's listening live now can ask a question. I'll be checking for those. We talked in the beginning about the team that's putting the broadcast together. How big is that team? What are the jobs?
Well, let me think about just in our TV truck. It's producer Doug Walton, longtime friend of ours, Swiss, old Shaky
One
Walton.
of the best in the business, man.
Yeah, and just a level-headed cat for what we have to do.
Perfect for that job.
So it's producer Walton, director Troy Clara, switcher Dan Brenner, and then Ron Harrison Jr. or Susan Clara or Jeff Whipple on graphics. And then in the back, you've got, I'm going to guess now because I rarely go into that area, but I would think, judging by pictures I've seen, 3 to 5 people in the digital tape department, a couple guys in the back, engineers, all those things. And then, World Series, so many cameras that we have access to. I'm sure that you've seen spectacular coverage. Like, I don't know how Troy Clara does it without blowing a head pipe, because he is just the whole game, 3.5 hours or 6.5 if you're in Los Angeles.
That's right.
I don't know how they got through that. They deserve a medal after that marathon.
Yeah, I should mention that Scott didn't work that game. He chose to stay back. He's got an understudy who stepped in for him in that one. And I got to say with Troy, man, Troy loves those drone shots. And so do I.
No doubt. It has added so much to, the one sport for me that I love drones on is golf, because they can take you places that, and just, golf has gone next level. But I'll tell you what, Blue Jays baseball and Sportsnet, next level. I'd put our broadcast up against anybody, and I'm not saying that because I work for them. It's as good as it gets, because obviously not working these road games, I've had to watch a bit of Fox, and it was like, no, ours is better, better.
I totally agree. I'm gonna ask one more question before I let Scott get in again. What is the broadcast day like for you? Like, what's the process?
For me, well, it's for the past 33 seasons, and mostly because the games are played at night. It's up at 9 o'clock, get a coffee going, start, go online, download all of the stuff that I need from Sport Radar, other documents that I have access to on a regular basis every day. I send them out to everybody. Blue Jays radio, also TV, like anyone involved in the broadcast that needs numbers on a daily basis. I get those out first so they have it. And then I start my day. We have what is called a game file, which is any of the lower third fonts that you see during a game that starts in my computer, me having coffee at home. That's the beginning of the process. And then throughout the day, when things get locked down, I send out stuff like the spreadsheets that we use when you're watching the game, and our scorebug flips with information that starts with me around 11 o'clock. It's more of an updating one, but as you read what happened the night before, you get little thoughts and ideas, and you go, that might be a good flip. Ultimately, it ends up that way. And after that, stop for lunch, have a shower, drive to the ballpark. Next day, Control, Alt, Delete. Away you go again.
So Craig's put together some questions, and one of the ones that I like is, how has this job affected your love of the game?
Well, now I'm going to sound like the crabby old guy, get off my lawn. But I mean, as analytics came into the game, I was always, it was fine. I'll learn, I'm old school as it gets when it comes to my job. So anyways, analytics come rolling in, and I'm starting to see these numbers. And it's like, okay, first of all, why is the WAR stat different on 3 different websites? Baseball Reference is different from Savant, is different from Fangraphs. That kind of makes me scratch my head, but that's the intangibles that are involved and variables that old school stats just didn't have,
Mm-hmm.
And
And
so,
WAR, for people who don't know, is a stat that's called wins above replacement. It's basically how good is this player compared to an average player.
yeah. So for me, the newer ones, it was like, I don't need all these newfangled numbers to let me know that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is a great player. My eyes can tell that.
Yeah, the eye test as opposed to
that's the eye test, but
yeah.
that's from doing this for all these years.
Yeah.
You have to remember, after 33 seasons, I've seen whole careers begin, prosper, finish, out the door to the Hall of Fame. The one guy for me, Jeter.
Right.
I saw his whole career from a skinny kid to this, superstar, multi-time champion, right into the Hall. Like, I love those things. And that's been the best part now, after all these years, seeing all these great players come up, play, and go. And it's been, that is the best part, next to Joe's home run.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now, so being in the booth and having to work through you're working the whole time through the broadcast, are you still able to be a fan of the game or of the team?
In the middle of the year, I have to admit, you just kind of grind through it, because you have to do it every day. And then all of a sudden, onto a plane, onto a road trip, you work. Later in the year, like this year again, the old fandom in me started to bubble up. I could feel it. Jays would walk a guy to lead off the inning late, and I would slap my hand on my leg, and then I said, "Self, settle down, let this happen," which was, because there's been a couple of home runs that, or a bunch of home runs now, where I couldn't believe how calm I was, because I'm a huge fan still. And I remember I just kind of watched the ball and then leaned out, looked at the crowd going absolutely bananas. And, that's fun. So, and when they beat the Yankees, little bit of tears. It was great. I mean, hey, when they win, it's still great, because, I was at the Joe Carter game as a fan that year, because that was back when you just got the CBS broadcast of the game.
Yeah.
And so I was there as a fan, and I will never. It was as crazy a place ever. George Springer's home run was right underneath it. Bautista's right there too. So
right.
Loads of fun.
Well, one of the questions Craig also had was what was your favorite moment, greatest moment in the job? So the Carter one you weren't actually working.
Nope. Wasn't working.
But so what was it? Were you working the Bautista home run?
Nope. That was just before. It was just before Sportsnet realized through their contract that they could do all of the playoff games right through the World Series. So that this began, the plans for it 3-4 years ago, but unfortunately they got knocked out bang bang in wild card rounds, and it just never happened. We were ready for it, but when it happened this time, like it was like we'd had so many trial runs that okay, let's do this now, and it's been seamless and great looking broadcast. So proud of everybody. Everybody stepped up, and that's the way. Hey, Canadian TV, Craig knows, everybody steps up. Everybody grabs a rope and pulls.
Yeah.
I was at a conference for factual television and documentary, and there was a British broadcaster. He wasn't talking about sports coverage, but he could have been, who was talking about the best producers in the world. And he said, Canada punches above its weight. And I believe that's true across the board. I think the broadcast you guys have been doing have been spectacular. I've loved it too. And I flipped over to Fox, and they got nothing on us. You did talk about how great it is when they're winning. We had Trevor Thompson on a little while ago, and he said the toughest part was covering a team when they're losing, and he had to cover the 0-16 Lions.
Right, and he would interview them. So,
So, what's the difference between covering a winning team and a losing team?
Well, when they're winning and going good, trying to find statistical storylines is easy because usually half the roster is hitting hot, or your starting pitchers are going deep, and all those things. So that's when the job is extremely easy because and the stuff that we get is then positive. When they're not going good, it's tough. I lived through many years where it was just, not that it's ever been just going to work, but it was tough because you have to try and stay positive. Part of your job is to, shine a light on the good things. Unfortunately, it's 2025, and so many people like to shine a light on the bad things. I'm not going there. So anyways, it's way harder when they're not playing well. No doubt about it, because you find so many bad stats that are telling a story. Like, I've had a lot of people say, why did you use that? And I said, I didn't make these numbers up, These are real numbers. A lot of fans don't like to hear that, and that's fine. I understand. That's why they're fans, So it's, really tough when they're not playing well, though, because.
Do you ever hear about it from the players?
Not from the players, but I stepped outside the box a couple times over these 33 years, and once they rolled up the newspaper and smacked me on the nose, it was like, okay, I get it. So I haven't been a bad boy for a long time when it comes to anything like that.
Yeah, I think everybody knows that the home team broadcasts are home team broadcasts. A long time ago, everybody gave up the pretense that this is any kind of journalism, right? Everybody is Hawk Harrelson, who is the White Sox announcer, who is a notorious and spectacular and beautiful homer, and is loved for all of those reasons. Yeah. Scott asked about hearing from the players. I'm sure people wonder about this. How much interaction is there with players?
Well, when I was a younger man, I used to go down onto the field and walk around, and you would kind of meet and know players. But the older I get, and as my job morphed into more of a computer research part of the job, which takes a lot of time, obviously. Like on this current roster, I don't think I've ever spoken to anybody there. I just, we stay in different hotels. We have our TV people in one, and everybody else is somewhere else. So it's not like you even cross paths with them unless you're at the ballpark. And like I say, I don't go down on the field much because there's no need to.
Right.
What's the worst part of the job?
Travel. used to be great, and then we had a couple things happen. 9/11 happened. That changed the rules, obviously, for air travel. And then COVID and all that entailed too just didn't make it fun. And now with the political, I'm going to call it unrest in the U.S. right now, it doesn't make going down there much fun. So that is the hardest part. Everything else, hey, look at, I get paid to watch baseball games on a daily basis. How bad can my day really be?
Okay, so you have been the statistician, or you've watched the games when you haven't traveled for the playoffs, the Yankees, Seattle, 4 games in.
Yep.
What are the stats telling you about the next 3 games?
Well,
What are we going to see?
The one thing that stands out to me, and it happened all year long, is the Blue Jays' ability to come back after the other team scores first. The other team scores first a lot against the Jays for whatever reason. But this team, you know, the great teams, the championship teams, they make you get all 27 outs.
Right.
Like they grind you. Like, you know, the 2 teams that always came to mind were those Yankees and Red Sox teams that, you know, brawled and everything. But in that era, the way that they could just flick away a pitch that they didn't like, drive up many starting pitchers' pitch counts. That's what this Blue Jays team has done all season. They bought into what they wanted to a man. And, you know, as great as their superstar players are, they've been winning because the secondary players have been getting on base for the stars to drive them in. It's been the best team, best Blue Jays team I've seen, obviously, since the World Series teams. But they're right there for being a team, you know, and great characters and good guys. And you never hear a bad thing about this team, and that's what makes makes me very proud to work on these broadcasts, because everybody is top shelf around there.
Mm-hmm. But that's a good point you make about them driving up the pitch counts. You know, Craig and I, people, you know, our regular followers of Brothers in Media know that Craig and I are huge Tigers fans.
Yep.
And 2013 was probably the best team they had since '84. And people wonder, how could the Tigers not win with Scherzer and Verlander? And the Red Sox it's just like you said, they drove up the pitch counts and they waited and waited and waited until the bullpen came in, and then Big Pappy hit a 3-run homer. You know, so yeah.
I'm gonna have to go cry now.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I remember those. I actually remember watching the 2000 World Series. I'm glad you brought up those Yankees. It was the Yankees and the Mets, and the Mets had all these borderline balls, and the Yankees just didn't swing at anything. They didn't swing at anything that wasn't a strike. They just didn't do it. And this Jays team is right there with it. I asked you about the worst part of the job, travel. What's the best part of the job?
Well, the best part of the job would have to be the great places that I've gone to, you know, around the world, because it hasn't just been Blue Jays. You know, did a lot of NHL up until about 5 years ago. Before that was did 3 Olympic Games. You know, never thought I would go to Lillehammer, Norway. Well, that was extremely cool. Canada Games, you know, went to Whitehorse of the Yukon. So, I mean, I've been very blessed on all of these great places that you get to go to. And in baseball, you know, I mean, I can still see myself, and used to will love that. My first ever game was at Tiger Stadium, 1976 of August, against the Red Sox. I can still see my first game on TV before the Blue Jays. I did a couple of stints on an Expo game. First game was at Riverfront Stadium. Couldn't believe it. My guy was Johnny Bench, and it was the Reds. And when you know, I go to get onto the elevator and I hear, "Hey, hold on, will you?" And who steps on? Johnny Bench. And I was like shaking. I couldn't believe it.
Hmm.
You know, it was there he was. Couldn't even ask him for, can I get an autograph? Anything. So that is the best part, though. Plus life experiences, Canada winning the gold in the hockey at Salt Lake. I was working there for the CBC. Great experience, loads of fun, all those things like that. Went to Prague doing the World Juniors with TSN and things like that. Things that one day when I sit down and write the book on all of my experiences, it'll all flow back. But luckily, I still remember. So,
you talked about meeting Johnny Bench, and in the jobs that we have had, you get to meet some really cool people. There's no denying it's a cool part of the job. I've met 3 of the guys who've walked on the moon. That's probably my favorite one. Who's your favorite? Yeah, it was pretty cool. Who's your favorite meet?
Who's my favorite meet? Let me think here. Met Lorne Michaels. That was very cool. He was up in the booth. Colin Farrell, when he was a bad boy, was a real good guy to stand next to and have a little chat with.
You can give us a short list. I'm happy with the short list.
Well, I can give you a couple of years ago, big thrill for me. Student of comedy as I am, I look into the booth next to us at Fenway Park. Who is on the radio talking? Bill Burr. And I'm like, I looked twice. I couldn't believe it. And so said to a guy working on our show, I said, "Hey, do you think you could get me next door so I can get a picture? Just wanted the picture." And he goes, "Yeah, no problem." So he's done, comes walking up the stairs, looks at me and thinks, "Who's this nut?" And he goes, "Hey, man, what's up?" And I said, "Hey, Bill, work for the Blue Jays, big fan. Just want to get a quick picture." And he goes, "Of course, buddy." And he puts his arm around me. Snap, snap, snap. Now it's framed in the office. It's a beauty. Yeah. Actually, you know something? Bill Burr was the best one to meet.
Yeah. That's a good one. He's
Any
hilarious.
other questions, Scott?
Yeah. I'm just wondering, is there a favorite stat you have?
My favorite stat, game-winning RBIs, because you know something, at the end of the year, the team that makes it to and win the World Series scored more runs than others. Somebody had to drive them in. Somebody had to drive in the game winner. And I know that the RBI stat has, fallen out of favor. But until the team that scores the most runs at the end of the year doesn't win the World Series, then I'm sticking with that.
Yep. I'm a big fan of the RBI too. So
I got to ask the other side of that. What's the stat you dislike the most?
Well, I mean, there's the newer ones that I don't know how they're getting to them. And amongst those, it's probably BABIP, which is batting average, ball in play. So anytime you put the ball in play, they can figure that out, obviously. And so it's a thing because somebody said it was a thing. So yeah,
we can measure it, so therefore it's a thing.
That's right.
Yeah, whether it has any significance or is helpful at all is another. Yeah.
As Lisa Simpson said, all these new stats make watching baseball at least as fun as doing your taxes.
She was a wise, young lady, well beyond her years.
Yeah. All right, Scott Carson. This is the part in the show where Scott Colby and I promote our books.
Cool.
I don't think Scott has.
I'm actually usually I broadcast. I'm from my basement, but I'm down on Front Street, just down from Skydome. I went by there. I still call it Skydome. Forgive me. It's always Skydome to me.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but I don't have my book with me, but I did write a book on how to write opinion articles and short memoirs. I think Craig has a copy. There
Oh,
it is.
I got it.
You think?
There you go. Cool.
That's what
Available
you
on
think.
Amazon. Yep. And
There you
yeah,
go.
there we go. Thank you, Craig.
Yes, and he also has Death in Etobicoke. If you didn't like
humor stories, you like humor? There's a lot of odd humor in that book. You have to be very intelligent to appreciate that book. I know
Scott gets killed in that book a lot. So
There you go.
if you don't like Scott Colby on this broadcast, that's the book for you.
Yeah, exactly.
My new book is The Unqualified Hockey Coach and Stories of Springsteen, True Love, and How to Be Utopian. You can get that on Amazon. It's getting great reviews. And if you like sports and sports caps, my old book, not that old, is All Caps Stories That Justify an Outrageous Hat Collection. It's a memoir told through baseball caps. Scott Carson, someday you will be on here pushing your book, and I look forward to that because you have always been such a fantastic storyteller and just like a really good guy. Like when I look at people out there and I look at the jobs they have, and I see Scott Carson as the statistician for the Blue Jays, that's one that just makes sense to me and makes me happy that this thing exists in the world.
I appreciate that, Craig.
Scott, thanks so much. Other
right,
Scott,
guys.
thanks so much. And
Yeah,
you have been listening to the Brothers in Media broadcast. We have not been bombarding you today with how to interpret media and understand the world better. We've just enjoyed the World Series, which we will continue to do.